Well, turning now to the race for the White House, Jeb Bush's campaign reportedly on the attack, his camp allegedly referring to Marco Rubio as the GOP's Obama in a closed-door meeting with donors. Here's what Karl Rove had to say about that earlier today.
For them, I wouldn't be thinking about Marco Rubio. I'd be thinking about Jeb Bush.
All right, let's talk about this with his campaign manager, Danny Diaz. Danny, great to see you. I know it's rare that you give these interviews, and we appreciate the time today.
Thanks for having me.
So it'll remain a report until someone from the campaign says this specifically on the record. But that's the report we got out over the weekend, that your campaign is referring to Marco Rubio as the GOP's Obama. I'd like to give you an opportunity to state that for the record. Is that what your campaign believes?
I think what our campaign believes is that we have the best candidate with the best record, the best vision. We enjoyed being in Houston and communicating our plans to move the country forward to win the GOP nomination, how Jeb Bush is the guy that can fix the problems in Washington, D.C. And by and large, that's what we discussed. But this is a campaign, and obviously we highlighted differences between the governor and other candidates in the field, and I expect that will be the case going forward with all the candidates.
Do you believe that about Marco Rubio, that he is the Republicans' Obama?
I think, look, when you look at the record of accomplishment from Governor Bush's perspective, you know, he in Florida helped create 1.3 million jobs, put $9 billion in the state's rainy day fund, cut taxes by $19 billion, AAA bond rating. I think that stands in stark contrast to others in the field, including Senator Rubio, who are short on accomplishments. And the reality is that we need someone who has a proven record of fixing things to be able to go into Washington, D.C. and make the changes that are necessary. I think doing the same thing over and over again is not going to achieve the result that the American people desire.
A comment made by your candidate over the last several days is getting a lot of attention. It was at a town hall in South Carolina. Just to refresh our viewers' memory of this, I'd like to play that sound now.
I want to be elected president to sit around and see gridlock just become so dominant that people literally are in decline in their lives. That is not my motivation. I got a lot of really cool things that I could do other than sit around being miserable, listening to people demonize me and me feeling compelled to demonize them. That is a joke. Elect Trump if you want that. If you want somebody who has a heart for people, who can fight for people and can fix these things, then there are a couple other people, and I believe I'm the best one.
There's been a lot of reaction to that. Here's a taste of it on Special Report last night.
The idea that Jeb Bush is the only person to be criticized in this campaign, I mean, I think all of them have gone through the gauntlet, and probably Trump more than anyone, at least by most establishment media outlets and most establishment journalists who wrote him off repeatedly and still deride him and ridicule him. And that's fine. That's the way it is. He's going to have to deal with that, and he's going to have substantive answers to their concerns. But I don't think it gets Jeb anywhere to stand up there and say, well, I have a lot of cool things to do. I'm sure he does.
To use a Trumpianism, it was pathetic and petulant. I mean, this is not very presidential.
Not very presidential and pathetic. Respond to those criticisms specifically, Danny.
Yeah, look, our focus is on, you know, the voters in the early states, and one has to look at the reaction of people in South Carolina to the campaign and to the governor's commentary over the course of the weekend. They responded positively. And why do they respond positively? Because they understand that Washington needs to be fixed, and Jeb Bush is the pusher to do it, number one. And number two, he shares their frustration. The frustration about a Washington that is gridlocked, that is not getting anything done. We have a great field, a large field, but they don't have a record of accomplishment of getting things done and fixing big problems. Jeb Bush does. He did it in Florida, and he'll do it for our country. And I think the more we present that to voters, the better response we're going to get. And we're seeing a great response in South Carolina, frankly.
You've mapped out your strategic vision, and that was part of it back in September. I want to show our viewers some polls from the last several months, September included. And when you see the polls, this is a Real Clear Politics polling. Danny, I know you probably can't see it on your screen, but it shows Jeb Bush ahead at 15% nationally in July, September to 9.5% to today at 7%. We know that polls are just a snapshot of how people feel at this moment, but that's what you're talking about. And back in September, you were talking about Jeb Bush's record. Are you going to maintain the strategic vision for this campaign as you have mapped it out in the past, or are you going to make some changes moving ahead to produce some different results on a national stage?
Oh, well, look, polls right now are the least reliable indicator. We're putting forward a great grassroots effort on the ground. People are really responding in states like New Hampshire and South Carolina to the fact that we have a candidate with the best and most accomplished conservative record, one that's going to get things done in Washington, D.C. once he's elected. And we believe that this is a difference maker. We're going to continue to talk about it, and I think you're going to continue to see more and more people support Jeb Bush because of it, frankly.
You talk a little bit about your grassroots efforts. One of the news items over the last several days as well has been the cutting of certain salaries for some of your staff. Here's the response from Jeb Bush when he was asked about this just a few days ago. Let's go ahead and play that sound.
Blah, 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 blah.
You know what they're saying.
That's my answer. Blah, blah, blah. October's not when you elect people. It's February, and then you move into March. And we have a campaign that is designed to win. And I'm going to win.
So we'll take out the blah, 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 unless that's what you would like to respond to as well, Danny, but I'm thinking you're going to have a little bit different answer. Talk to us about those changes, because we're noticing a different tone from the candidate. We're noticing some changes when it comes to salary. And so these are leading some to believe that the campaign is in trouble. Is it?
Well, no. And good campaigns always make adjustments along the way. That's frankly what winning campaigns do. And that's what our focus is. That's what our intent is. And that's what we're going to accomplish. And we're going to do it in part, as I said at the outset, because we have the best candidate with the best record, the most conservative accomplishments, with the vision to move the country forward. And so what are we doing? We're investing even more resources on the ground in the states where we already have the most formidable, or one of the most formidable, grassroots teams. We're putting our presence there because that's where it matters. That's where the impact is going to be felt on Election Day. And that's where our focus is. And that's where the candidate's time is going to be spent. That's where the outreach is occurring.
Understood.
So we're making wise decisions for the future.
Okay, so you're confident in that. I'm just going to bring our conversation full circle because we got the debate tomorrow, and that's going to be something a lot of people are going to be watching, and specifically who Jeb Bush focuses on as his main competitor. I know you haven't wanted to state really directly that Rubio is the GOP's President Obama, as has been apparently discussed in behind closed door meetings. But who do you see as your greatest rivalry? Who are you focusing on in the field as you take a look at it as it stands today?
Great question. We're focusing on Jeb Bush. We're going to talk about 1.3 million jobs created. We're going to talk about 8 balanced budgets. We're going to talk about $19 billion in tax cuts.
So you don't care about anybody else? It's not Trump, it's not Rubio, it's not Carly Fiorina who's tied with you. None of these people matter at all. You're not watching them even just a little bit, Danny?
A little bit. There clearly will be exchanges between the candidates. That's entirely expected. We're going to use this opportunity in front of millions of Americans to talk about the candidate who's going to be the next Republican nominee and president of the United States, and we're excited to do it.
All right. Well, you conceded a little bit. You didn't give me a name, but I hope you come back and maybe speak more directly on that in the next few weeks.
Got it.
Danny, nice to have you on the program. Thank you.